though Assam is predominantly a non-Muslim province, the district of Sylhet, which is contiguous to Bengal, is predominantly Muslim, and there has been a demand that in the event of a partition, Sylhet should be amalgamated to the Muslim part of Bengal. If I take the Hindu population as scheduled caste and the generals together, it comes to around 36% Hindu, 60% Muslim, according to what Liaquat Ali had written. But that was not the situation. If you look at the census, it was quite different. And virtually, though British government said that there is a demand for referendum, there was no conflict between Hindus and Muslims there. There was a voting. 1924, there was a voting. In the voting, actually, all the Hindus and Muslims, most of them voted for reunification with Bengal. But even though the motion had won, it was discarded by the Europeans forcibly. First of all, I'd like to thank Srijan Foundation for giving this opportunity to present my talk here. And at the same time, I would like to acknowledge some friends who have really pushed me to talk here. And one of them is Mr. Arunodoy Bhattacharjee, but he could not come here because of health issues. I would like to introduce myself as the grandson of a refugee. Okay. Now, my grandfather, he was born in India. He had to migrate to another part of India because the country got divided. And he became a refugee. And there are a lot of people like me who are spread all across the country, who are all grandsons and granddaughters of such refugees. And we are trying to find out what our history actually is. So this is an effort that I had started, say around 6-7 years back. I tried to look back at the partition of Sylhet, and I found that absolutely nothing is there in the internet or in terms of books or anything, except 3-4 theses. One thesis written by Navanipa Bhattacharjee, one by Sukalpa Bhattacharjee, one by Vinayak Datta. These are mainly 3 theses. Some papers by Anindita Dasgupta, and a couple of books. That's all I could find. And then I started exploring, because all the books that I have read, the first book written on Sylhet, it's called Without Roots. There's another book which was written on the partition of Bengal, that is called Uprooted. It was written by the governor of Meghalaya, present governor, Tathagata Roy. So why this without roots, uprooted? Why is that feeling there? Okay. And that is why I started exploring. Okay. Now, just before the talk, I was waiting outside and somebody asked me, what is Sylhet? So I was ready for this question, and that is why I prepared my slide with an introduction. Okay. So this is something I got again in the internet, a cartoon about the partition of India. So one side we have Nehruji, the other side Jinnah. Gandhi is a silent observer, and we have Mountbatten, who is just hoping that nothing goes wrong. So they are, but the mockery is that they are using a big saw and they expect that the results will be surgical with minimum damage. So first let me introduce the geography. So this is where Sylhet is presently, okay, a corner of Bangladesh, but it was a part of Greater Bengal. This is a very early map of Bengal under the British Raj, and you can see here is Sylhet, and this map of Bengal covers a lot of area. There you have the Naga Hills, and this side here somewhere is Kolkata down here. Yeah, that is Calcutta. This side is Cuttack, Balasore. This side you have some territories from Bihar. So all that included, say Muzaffarpur here. So it was a very big Bengal that time. And coming back to the small portion called Sylhet, this is a subdivision. So it had four parts to it: Sunamganj, Sylhet Sadar, Hobbyganj, and Maulavi Bazar. These were the four main divisions of the region. And the present map of Bangladesh, this is where Sylhet is located. Now, if we go to the history, now this history that I have collected, it's, history and mythology has got mixed up. We don't have a proper written history of the times. I have searched things, so I found some notes in the history in Bangladesh history, and there they have mentioned these things, that the ancient name of Sylhet was Sribhumi or Srihatta or Gaura Rajya, and some references from Mahabharata has also come up that Duryodhana's in-laws, so he had one of his wives from Tarak Rajya, and that Tarak Rajya is somewhere in this Hobbyganj region. Arjuna's Ashwamedha Yagya, it's famous for the horse getting stuck in Manipur. Chitrangada, the queen, the princess there, she has been mentioned in many texts. Similar incident also happened in Jaintia. Jaintia is just in Meghalaya now, it's just adjacent to Sylhet. And Arjuna had to sign an accord there. And around 5000 BCE, some coins were found. Okay. Now, these coins and as well as some Tamrapatra, it was found. So we get some information that it was a port city. Okay. See, the lower portions of Bangladesh and Sundarbans, everything has been created by the siltation. So at that time, Sylhet was a port city, and in text they have mentioned this word Howar. Or if anyone visits Assam University in Silchar, you pass through a very large water body. I don't remember exactly, but that water body, Chatla Howar. Then there were some of these inscriptions which were found in two places, Nidhanpur and Bhatera, and they also mentioned some of the things that it being a port city, and the king of Assam. Assam was the primitive name of Assam was Pragjyotishpura. So the king of Pragjyotishpura was Bhagadatta, and the ruins of his castle are found in a place called Nabiganj. Then there is this last thing, it's a disputed one. Okay, some people believe that Huensang had visited there and he had mentioned about this place as Silahat or Sili Cha Thi Lo. Okay, but some historians have attributed this to some other place. Okay, so this is a disputed fact. Okay, so this is around 250 BCE. 400 BCE during the Gupta Empire. Sylhet is somewhere here attached to Assam. 765, around that time the Pal dynasty had ruled Bengal, and they have captured these areas, and later the Sen dynasty. And then again the Sultanate of Bengal, they captured this part. Okay. Now, we all have heard of the partition of Bengal in 1905. A lot has been written about it. But the first partition of Bengal, which I would say unreported, is this one. the partition of Sylhet. Sylhet was attached to Bengal before this. Okay. Suddenly, the government declared that Sylhet should be sliced away from Bengal and it should be appended to Assam for administrative reasons. Okay. Now, if we go very deep into it, what happened is Shillong had become the capital of Assam that time. From Shillong, Sylhet is very near. Okay. Even now, if anyone has gone there, you will see there's a road to a place called Dauki, and one side, beside the road, there's a small stream, and one side you find that you have the BSF, and just 10 feet away from you, you have the BDR, the Bangladesh Rifles. It's so adjacent to each other. Okay. Now, this reason they have said administrative, if you go deeper into it, you will find that it is a very economic decision. Assam tea gardens, they had spread over to Sylhet also, and Sylhet was producing good quality tea. Now, British wanted to control the tea from there itself. Bengal was a longer route. So, to capture the tea industry there, this decision was taken. But this sudden slicing away of Sylhet from Bengal, it was neither acceptable to the people in Sylhet nor acceptable to the people in Assam. Okay. And what happened, this created a lot of social and cultural dismemberment. Okay. Because this is the first time you find that you are being uprooted. Okay, this uprooting seed had been. So this is what Rabindranath Tagore had written about that. Okay, so you have been exiled. Okay, Sri Bhumi is Sylhet. So you have been exiled from Bengal, but you are still knotted to it through blessings, and it will be knotted till eternity to come. Okay, so roughly this is what the poem says. Then a lot of politics took place in 1924. There was a bill brought in Assam Legislative Council to reunite Sylhet to Bengal, and similar bill was again introduced in 1926. Okay. Now, at this juncture, there was this gentleman called Sadullah. Sadullah was emerging. Okay. Now, if you look into the history of Assam, Gopinath Bordoloi was the first chief minister of Assam, but before that Assam had a prime minister, and Sadullah was the prime minister. Okay, not for one term but for 2 terms, and he became the prime minister because Congress had boycotted. Okay, Congress had boycotted. Sadullah was in Muslim League, so he emerged as a leader. Okay. Now, as he emerged as a leader, he did not he took a lot of effort along with the British. Even the British did not want Sylhet to be a part of Bengal. So, Sadullah gave this statement that if Sylhet is gone today, next Kachar and Gwalpara, these are 2 other districts of Assam. Okay. By the way, Gwalpara was also appended to Assam, just like Sylhet. Okay. And there was a voting. 1924, there was a voting. In the voting, actually, all the Hindus and Muslims, most of them voted for reunification with Bengal. But even though the motion had won, it was discarded by the Europeans forcibly. Same thing in 1926 happened, then again 1930, 1940, many of these bills were brought in, but it was tabled, and then at the same time what was happening was the Muslim League was emerging as a bigger and bigger force. Okay. And then when Muslim League was emerging, Jinnah had the Assam plan. Jinnah had a plan. See, Jinnah's ambitions were territorial. If Pakistan would be created, Jinnah knew that he will become either the president or the prime minister. No one is going to stop him. Okay. So Jinnah knew only thing he had to do is expand his territory. So Jinnah had made this plan of what is called the Assam plan of taking over entire Assam. Okay. So now when that plan was seeding, a feeling of distrust cropped up. Okay, if you even today, if you look at the partition, and it is looked at as a Bengali-Assamese conflict, but it's actually not that, because Assamese people also had this apprehension that entire Assam may go to Bangladesh, Pakistan that time. Okay, so that was the Jinnah's Assam plan. Okay, now what happened next is I'm going to present a few slides which are from the archives. These are all telegrams that have been sent during that time period. It started with this thing, 3rd June 1947, and if you I have just given the excerpts here. Okay, so 3rd June 1947. This is the statement issued by His Majesty's government and issued from Viceroy's office. Okay, so the first line here, point here, on 20th February 1947, His Majesty's government announced their intention of transferring power to the Indian hands by June 1948. We were supposed to get independence in June 1948. We got in August 1947. Okay. So the last line of this point, that we are to evolve for India a constitution acceptable to all concerned. This hope has not been fulfilled. And then it goes on to tell us about different territories. You have the territory of Sindh, the northwest frontier province, where a referendum was being proposed at that time, British Balochistan, and then came these two paragraphs about Assam, point number 13 and 14. Okay, so this is what. So the point starts this way: though Assam is predominantly a non-Muslim province, the district of Sylhet, which is contiguous to Bengal, is predominantly Muslim, and there has been a demand that in the event of a partition, Sylhet should be amalgamated to the Muslim part of Bengal. Okay. Now, this is more or less an assumption. Okay. There were demands, but demands were not as big that this part should be amalgamated to Pakistan. And then, if we look at the representation in constituent assemblies, Sylhet district is mentioned here, 1 seat for general, 1 for Muslim, so 2 for Muslims, and totally it had 3 seats. Okay. Now, the next thing that happens is on 11th June, just after this statement comes out, Liaquat Ali Khan writes to Lord Mountbatten. And what does he write? Here, he says that Muslims are 60.7% of the population. Then he said caste Hindus and scheduled castes. Okay. So the caste divide that had occurred earlier, this was used very cleverly by the British as well as by the Muslim League. Okay. So they just split the population there. So they have separated as caste Hindus and scheduled castes, and presented it separately as 11% and 25%, and then they said tribals 22%. Further, what Liaquat Ali says that the number of electors from the Muslim community is 3,11,000, general is 2,35,000, and he shows that this is equivalent to 54% of the population. Okay. So what he wants now is that there should be a scaling factor which will represent the 60% population. Okay. So he wanted that to happen. Then, yeah. Now, if I take the Hindu population as scheduled caste and the generals together, it comes to around 36% Hindu, 60% Muslim, according to what Liaquat Ali had written. But that was not the situation. If you look at the census, it was quite different. And virtually, though British government said that there is a demand for referendum, there was no conflict between Hindus and Muslims there. If you I have asked people, okay, so the book started with collecting anecdotes, because since we don't have a written history, I thought the persons who have come as refugees, everyone has a history to tell. So why not I collect these stories? And I started collecting. Okay, and even if you see the actual partition when it took place after the referendum, even that time you will find that the communal violence in Sylhet was very minimum compared to other parts. Okay. Now, I presume that electorates of special constituencies such as Labour, Tea Planter, Commerce would not participate in the referendum. The Labours, okay, the Labours were the people mostly who had migrated from Bihar, Odisha. Okay, in Assam, anyone who has gone to Assam, you will find a very big Kuli community. Okay, these are the people who work in the tea gardens. Okay, they are all migrants. Okay, so Liaquat Ali wanted all these people to be out of the referendum. And similarly, the commerce, anyone involved in the trades, he wanted them to be out of the referendum. And this way, after a lot of discussions, it was accepted that okay, we'll not allow the tree planters, the tea planters, the commerce to be a part of the referendum, but will not have a scaling factor. Okay, so whatever communication you find till that time, okay, so you will find the communication is only Liaquat Ali Khan or Jinnah writing to the governors. The Indian leaders were totally silent till that. Okay, then what happened was everything was agreed, and then the draft was prepared that Sylhet had to be the referendum will take place, and some constituencies were set up. Okay. And if you look at all these letters that I have collected, you will find either confidential or cipher grade is written. Okay. So these are again some okay. So there was a Gazette notification, and this Gazette notification by the British, you see, 16 June 1947. Okay, so after this is the formal notification of the referendum to be held in Sylhet. Okay, and it is taken out by this KVK Sundaram, who was the additional secretary at that time, and later he became the second election commissioner of India. And then it was decided on the dates that Sylhet referendum will be taken on 6th and 7th July. Okay. Now, those people who have visited Assam, you know, July is the worst time to visit the state. Okay. Monsoon, it is flooded everywhere. Okay. And even with today, what the development that we have good roads, we have a good rail network. Even with that, we find that some districts get totally cut off. Now imagine what happened in 1947. At that time, we didn't have such good roads. railway network was a bare minimum, and in that time people decided that voting should be done. The referendum is done, and meanwhile, you see, as I said, the Pakistani media, the Pakistani people, they kept the pressure very high. So there was a article that came out in the Dawn newspaper. Okay, so this is an excerpt of that one. So they were alleging that entire thing is going against Pakistan, and it has been, rigged in favor of India. No such thing was happening. So this allegations were again some replies were given, and as I said, cipher grade telegram, secret. Okay, so and then they gave long explanations on that. No, everything is fine. We have a very fair elections. Okay, and nothing wrong is going to happen. Okay, so again the similar kind of replies, and then comes this gentleman, Jogendranath Mondal. This Jogendranath Mondal, if you look at his wiki page, this is okay, and he is a founding father of the modern state of Pakistan. His role in the partition was very pivotal. Okay, see, as the caste distinction is there, upper caste and scheduled castes, he was promoted by the Muslim League, and the plea was, the upper caste people don't respect you at all. So if you remain in India, you will never get this respect. So it's better you remain in Pakistan, because the Muslim society does not have a caste system. You will be having more access to everything there. And now this thing got so much into the heads of people, particularly by the efforts of this gentleman, that the scheduled caste basically voted for Pakistan against India. Now he raised some complaints also. Okay, so ultimately the referendum took place here, and after the referendum had taken place, this is the result of the referendum. The first letter here, it is addressed to Mr. Bordoloi, who was the Chief Minister of Assam. Then the second thing to Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and then it was written to Nehru. Okay. Now, this was the result of the referendum. So yes, okay. Now, what was the question asked? Why should Sylhet join the province of East Bengal in Pakistan? And then they had a symbol system. They had just put a symbol of X and hut. Hut means you stay, and you vote for X means you cut off. The number of people with voting rights. If you look at the census, the population was about 31 lakhs, Sylhet district if I see, at that time. The number of people who voted, you see, 5,46,000. So these 5,46,000 people, they decided the fate of 6 times their number, 30 lakh people. Then a lot of ballot boxes did not reach the counting centers. There was a divide between the rural and the urban areas. The rural areas, the voting was more or less, the urban areas voting was more or less uniform because of the security arrangements. In the rural areas, the votes, many people could not vote, and then the split up of votes from the scheduled caste community, which I had explained earlier. Okay. Now after the vote, what happened is, now Nehru comes into picture, because a lot of complaints were raised, and these complaints were raised by a person called R.N. Chaudhary. R.N. Chaudhary was a member, he was the secretary of the Sylhet Partition Committee. he raised a lot of objections, based on which the queries were raised. Okay, and then, so this is his letter to Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. So what he basically wanted to show here is that even the map was wrongly represented. When Ratcliffe did the partitioning of the area, the map was wrongly presented. Okay, but the response he got from Vallabhbhai Patel: thank you for your letter. The whole question of your attitude towards the boundary award is before cabinet, and you can depend on that the points which you have urged will be duly considered. That's all. Okay. He kept on writing again and again to Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel. Even some people demanded a second referendum, but nothing happened. Okay. And then we ended up having the partition. Now, these are some clippings from newspaper in those times. Okay. Dhaka, 30th June, Amrit Bazar Patrika. Okay. So, if you see, there were disturbances. It was not that you just give up your territory and go away. Disturbances were there, but what happened is it's not to the scale that it has been projected. The survivors I have talked, like I put this line here, the story of Jayanti Sen. Okay, now Jayanti Sen was one of the survivors. She was a newly wed bride at that time. Now, there were some people who wanted the land to be vacated, and they had to move to India. So what were, now this lady, her mother-in-law just put her up in a jute bag, tied that bag and put it under the bed. Okay, and she lived like that for around 3 or 4 months. Okay, but I have another story of another lady. She said that just before independence, she had, it was in June 1947, before this referendum, June, July, she had left India. And she was brought from Sylhet to Shillong by Muslim bodyguards. Then you have similar kind of stories. There was a police arrangements, hooliganism. This kept on happening, but everything, was sequential. Before the referendum, the violence was not there. Immediately after the referendum, the violence was not there. But as the country transformed, Bangladesh transformed. When it was a part of India, it was a kind of a secular country. The moment it became Pakistan, it became an Islamic country. As soon as it became an Islamic country, there were forces who were trying to change things there, change attitudes, and with that the violence kept on increasing. Okay, and if you go ahead this way, 1971 became a turning point. Okay, so all the stories that I have gone through, 1971, horrific stories are there. Okay, what happened to people? They became a weapon. Now the present status. Okay, the thing is, the people who have left Sylhet and migrated, what happened to them? Okay, you will find that they are not accepted anywhere. They have become a kind of a foreigner. Okay, so they have been unaccepted in Bengal, unaccepted in Assam, unaccepted in Northeast, and the people, the older generations, my grandfather, they always talked about the estranged land. And then what happened is they always had this vision that someday maybe we'll be able to go back, we'll be able to regain, and at the same time they lost everything. I've seen very affluent families. Okay, like there were families having a title of Ashtapadi. Ashtapadi means at least 8 elephants was there in their courtyard. those kind of people, really affluent. After partition, they had to shift, or some people, they left their entire property remained in Pakistan, and their homes remained in India. So they lost everything. And these people, like I know a particular family, they split one dhoti into 3 pieces so that they can, economize on things. Okay. But another aspect I found was they also, somehow were more resilient than us. They accepted things much easier. Today, this thing might have happened. You might have seen thousands of suicides, but they lost everything, but they did not lose hope. They had a hope that they can regain their land. Yeah, now what many people have gone back just to visit. Okay, like in my grandfather's trunk when he died, we found a small pouch containing the soil of that land. What's happening is right now, since there is no distinction between infiltrators and refugees, a lot of questions are coming up. Okay, since the government is in an effort to legalize most of the things. Okay, but to legalize things, what happens is, where do you get the documentation? Even 20 years back from now, getting a birth certificate, no one bothered. Now we have a proper birth certificate. So what happens is, I've seen in villages, people have this fear of going back to detention camps. People have a fear that something will happen. So they are trying to find their legacy, who their ancestors were. And in that business, some of them have really found who their ancestors were with documentation. Somewhere, legacies, my legacy is being used by someone else. Somewhere the legacy is getting stolen. Some legacy is getting sold. Okay, and the people who are suffering here, I've seen mostly the women.
Hello, sir. I'm also from Silchar, so that's why I can connect myself with this story. And last year when I was in Karimganj, so I heard one story that at the time of this Sylhet referendum, there was some confusion with Karimganj, I guess. Initially it went to Sylhet and again it came back to India. Is it something like that?
Yeah, there are 2.5 thanas, if you have heard. Okay, now Karimganj was a Hindu majority portion.
Exactly.
Okay, but the referendum results, you see, at that time there was the communication was not as strong as that.
Yep.
Okay, so what happened that time is the Karimganj people did not know what to do. For almost 15 days, Pakistani flag was flying there.
Exactly.
Okay, but later on the government clarified, no, this belongs to India, and then Indian, so since you have gone there, there is this Kushiara river.
Jokiganj and all.
Yeah. So this part of the river belongs to India, and that part of the river belongs to Bangladesh.
Yes.
And it becomes taking. If you want to ride a boat there, only BSF can take you for a ride.
Exactly, with a flag, small flag.
Yeah, with a flag of India. Yeah.
Hello, sir. Thank you for your talk. So my name is Ayushman Kalita. I'm from Guwahati.
Yeah.
So I have 2 questions. So one, sir, was the first Assam CM Gopinath Bordole in any way responsible for the transfer of Sylhet to East Pakistan? And second one, sir, was Borak Valley ever a part of Sylhet in ancient times?
Sylhet, what we consider is the Surma Valley. The river there is Surma. Borak Valley is the part consisting of Silchar, Hailakandi and Karimganj. Okay, that part. So Sylhet was distinctly different from Borak. Okay, and see, Gopinath Bordole had given one statement: Sylhet Gaul, Sylheti no Gaul. Okay, the Sylhet has gone, but Sylhetis have not gone, and that has been interpreted in many ways. Okay, but what I would assume, Okay, I'm not very sure about the answer because he also had, okay, he had a desire to become chief minister. That's what people say. But the Jinnah Assam plan, that must be in his mind. No? If saving Assam was a bigger priority than saving Sylhet. So I think that was also working at the back of his mind.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My question is more on some fundamental aspect of it. See, in the current context, there is discussion going on and a lot of discussion about it. There's somebody who's been persecuted for belonging to a certain religion, follower of religion, and then that actually lead to his migration or forced migration. Then there has to be some avenue for that person to at least go and take shelter somewhere.
Yeah.
So there's a viewpoint nowadays going on, like somebody who is not belonging to say Christianity or Islam or a Brahmin religion as such, where those people can go. So for instance, in Afghanistan, in Bangladesh, in Pakistan, Hindus, if they are not able to sustain there just for the fault that they belong to a religion which is not welcome there, where do they go? In that context, there is a propagation of thought that India should welcome those people, but not that those kind of refuge can be given to anybody else for the people who have more than 50 avenues to go all around world. Your views on that?
See, I would answer it this way. Are refugees welcome? Today, if say 50,000 refugees come to Delhi, can Delhi accommodate that? Okay, we have to think very logically. Sentimentally, we can think yes, but logistically, can we really provide if suddenly there is an influx? Okay, now if you look at, I know slowly that we'll start talking of the Citizen Amendment Bill and all. Okay, now what happens is in entire Northeast, say, the tribal populations are very small. Okay, and there are I think maybe 200 different tribes there. Suddenly, if there is an influx, demographic change becomes a reality, and in that, the logistic problems are there. So I don't know what should be the exact solution. If people are allowed to come in, where? Because say we have come in as refugees, my ancestors. Okay, now what is happening? Our culture, everything is getting lost. The loss of land is not just a loss of property alone. Saving the culture, saving our traditions become very difficult.
But the reason for your migration was you belonging to a particular religion which was not welcome. Is this correct?
Not necessarily. It was imposed.
No, that is what I am saying. So if that is the case, I'm just my limited point is the migration which is forced on people just because they belong to a certain sect or religion.
Yeah.
And that is the only fault they have.
Yeah.
If you call it fault. In that case, I'm just talking from that limited perspective, not in general refugees migration.
So may I take that?
No.
Okay, so we have something called the Hindu Charter, and I'm actually taking this opportunity to go on camera also. The Citizen Amendment Bill is actually one of the demands, right? So the point is that India is the natural home of Indian religionists, and they must be welcome. This is the only home that they have, Indian religionists, as distinct from alien religions which came from outside India. Exactly. So I think that is a stand unapologetically we must be able to take. Okay, and and the second point is that refugees we cannot just keep taking, because demographic change is a reality, and if India were to be 80% Muslim, for example, India and Indian value systems will not remain. There is no difference between Pakistan and India in that case.